in whatever business you're in, whether it's a product business or a service business, let your work speak for itself. That is, always do the best you can do and always give the person, the customer, the best product that you can give, regardless of the price. Always do that. And we have a little saying, it only costs a little more to go first class. So always give a first class product. Even if it's a gratis type thing that they are paying nothing and you're just giving the service, always still first class.
All right, good morning, Savannah, and welcome to the Savannah Business Showcase. My name is Taraz, I'm the host, and this morning we are live. I'm usually pre-recorded, so I'm excited about this. And the only reason I did it live is because I have a special guest here who I knew would be here. And a lot of times I don't know they're going to be, but I knew you would be here. I believed in you. So thank you, Mr. Zeke. What is your last name?
Zimmerman.
Zke Zimmerman. Thank you, Mr. Zeke, for being in the studio with me this morning. The way I usually like to start out the show is with a scenario. Okay, so you're walking through your neighborhood. A little kid comes up to you and says, Mr. Zeke, you're my hero. How can I be like you when I grow up? And in the language that a 10 or 12-year-old can understand, what does it take to be Zke Zimmerman?
There are probably two words I would give to a young person. And that is, first and foremost, is believe in your God. Truly believe in your God and have faith. And secondly is to be truthful in all that you do. That is, have integrity. I will probably not use the word integrity, but be truthful in all that you do. Be honest and truthful to every aspect of your life. Just those two things.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. So how did you come to that? Like, what in your life has shown you that those two things are the most important things?
Well, the first of those is my father, who set an example for all of us. And when I say all of us, all of his children, in how to treat others, how to live, and how to really be the type of person that you feel good about yourself at the end of the day, every day. He had no money, in essence. He was not a rich person. He didn't have a lot. In fact, he had little to nothing. But he did two things that were major. One was he loved our mother. In all the years that all of his children can remember, he never argued with our mother. He always treated her with the greatest and utmost respect. The second is, before he criticized or said something negative about somebody or some situation, he would always try and place himself in their shoes and look at it from their point of view. And that tends to give you a different perspective on the situation rather than looking at it from your point of view.
That's beautiful. I needed that right now, because right now my wife's mad at me, so I'll go home. I'll go home until I love her.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about yourself real quick. So before we jump into 100 Black Men of Savannah.
Well, in a snapshot is I was born in South Carolina, born on a farm. At the age of 4, I was in first grade.
Okay.
And finished high school at the age of 16. Went to college, started college at the age of 16, finished college at the age of 20. Went in active duty with the military as a second lieutenant. Served 27 years in the military. Okay. It was always my goal, ever since I was in high school, was to teach high school.
Okay.
So when I retired from the military, I moved right into doing what I'd always dreamed of doing, was teaching high school mathematics. And I did that for about a year and a half, and moved into administration, being an assistant principal of high schools, and I did that for 22 years.
Okay, that's awesome. All right. So tell me a little bit about the 100 Black Men of Savannah.
The 100 Black Men of Savannah. Well, this is an organization that first and foremost I saw as an organization that was about community, about young people, and about helping them along the path that they need to be on. And we call that mentoring. The young people say that the youth are our future. They're also our present.
Yeah.
And we can see that very quickly when we start looking at how the actions of the youth mold the actions of the community in either positive or negative ways. Mm-hmm. In fact, both. Yeah. So we need to pay more attention to and provide more support to those in our community who are the center of our community. Not, like I say, not only the future, but our present. Mm-hmm. And there aren't enough people doing that.
Right.
We are very busy with our own lives and don't have time for our youth. In some cases, don't have time for our own kids.
It's true.
So the 100 Black Men is about being a part of the village. It's not the village. It is a part of the village to work in that area of supporting our youth and help guiding them in a direction to be successful. We have some very smart kids out here in our world. Mm-hmm. But without the proper guidance, it goes sometimes in a negative direction rather than a positive direction.
True.
So, again, the 100 is about opening those doors so that each and every child can see the positive side of their attributes. And not only see those, but being able to develop those, given the opportunity. We talk about the playing field not being level. Mm-hmm. Well, if we don't do something to level it, it won't ever get level. And so the 100 is about doing something to help level the playing field.
Mm-hmm. And what type of children are you looking to help and mentor?
Every child.
Okay.
There is no exception. It's not gender specific. It's male and female. It's not ethnicity specific. It is all children. Mm-hmm. It's not faith specific. It's all children. Mm. So there's no child that's excluded from the scope of what needs to be done.
Okay. Is there an age range that you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
There is an age range. It's 2 to 90.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. So you have a lot of programs. Tell me about some of the programs.
All right. Well, sort of the flagship program for the 100 has been our Youth Leadership Academy. And the Youth Leadership Academy is more a weekend program. Meet on Saturdays. Now, that one focuses primarily on middle and high school young men and young ladies. And again, it's all inclusive of all young men and all young ladies in that age range. The focus there is leadership development, as it says in the Youth Leadership Academy. And when we talk about leadership development, of course, when you talk about developing a leader, you cannot leave the leader's character, the leader's personal traits out of that equation. Mm-hmm. So it's about developing the individual and preparing the individual for leadership, understanding first fellowship, and then going on into leadership. Mm-hmm. A part of that leadership development is also academic and educational development. So we focus a lot on preparation for being successful at the college level.
Okay.
Not only getting there, but being successful once you get there and finishing. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to start a race and not be able to finish. Mm-hmm. Many of the activities then will center around preparation for college and what it takes to finish college.
Okay. I really I wish I would have had that growing up, because I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I pretty much breezed through high school and middle school just because it felt easy. But as soon as I got to that upper level, it was different. Absolutely. You know, it's a different breed. You have to be prepared and you have to go to class, which I didn't do. I passed, but I didn't go enough. You have to go to class. You have to study. You have to take time to focus, and that's something you don't. Especially when you first get to college and it's so much fun and there's so many events going on, Yeah. So thank you for doing that for the kids and preparing them. I did like what you said, fellowship. I've never heard that term before, but I like that a lot because you can't be a good leader unless you're first a good follower.
That is absolutely true.
Okay. All right. You also have a program for, and this is one of the biggest reasons I had you here, is because you also have a program for entrepreneurship, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
That's primarily during the summer.
Okay.
We hit on it during the Youth Leadership Academy in its development, but there's a strong focus, central focus on it in a summer program that we run called Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Where we have young people who are interested in owning their own business, running their own business, and going through the process of hands-on working with some business leader who knows how to develop a business plan, and they actually will develop a business plan during the summer that they are in there. And so to start horning in on what area they want to go into. You know, to say I want to be an entrepreneur is a very broad area.
Right.
What is it that I want to sell? Or what is it that I want to make? What kind of business do I want to run? How do I identify what that is? So we have a lot of youth who say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own my own business. Okay, great. What business?
Right.
What's your niche?
Yeah.
What area is it, and how do I get there in order to open a business? I don't just step out today and say, I want to start this business and I know nothing about that area. So how do I get the foundation in that area of expertise before I can start talking about opening my own business?
Right.
And so that's the focus of the summer program, is so that you can get them to start focusing on where it is, what it is that I want to do, how do I identify it, and then what do I need to do to get there.
Okay. Okay. So I would love to help out with that, the entrepreneurship program over the summer, next summer. So for myself and everybody out there listening, like, how can men become involved with 100 Black Men of Savannah?
All right. You can go to our website, which is 100 Black Men Savannah, or you can just Google 100 Black Men of Savannah. And once you get on the website, there's an area called Join Us. That is primarily for membership. But if you want to join us in supporting us as a friend of the 100 or supporting us in any other way of support, then you can just email us at info@100blackmensav.org.
Okay.
And we'll get that email, and within 24 hours, someone will be getting back to you.
Awesome. Okay. So how did you get involved with the 100 Black Men?
Well, when my son was in high school, I started as working with his basketball team.
Okay.
And that was the first time really mentoring. Now, I had coached some before that, but it wasn't a mentoring role. But now that he was playing and got into it actually with one young man who I saw going down the wrong path, who was on his basketball team. So we started working that, and then formed them as just a off the court group, and doing things with them, and ultimately then doing things with parents likewise. So then I kept doing that while I was in the military.
Okay.
From location to location, was just working with young people in the community. Then once I retired and got into the school system as an educator, I started forming mentoring groups within my high school.
Okay.
Of both young men and young ladies, and meeting the needs of that group. I find that you have to watch the chemistry of the group, and see what the needs of the group are, rather than just go in with a chart and saying, this is what we're going to do. We have to first know what the needs of the group are. And so in each case, we have focused on what the needs were in those groups, and then work with meeting those needs and developing the kids in those groups. So it has expanded. In fact, in Virginia, before coming here, the superintendent of schools there was so taken by the programs that we had in mentoring in our high school that he asked us to implement it in all the high schools in that school district. And it ultimately then went down to all the middle schools in that school district. And it's made a tremendous impact on the outcomes of our kids.
That's beautiful. So I guess take me through the process. So like my son's 5 years old. If I want to get him involved in 100 Black Men, what's the process like? What's the first thing we do, and then how does he get involved with the leadership program?
All right. Well, he can start at his school.
Okay.
We have a school mentoring program in elementary, middle, and high schools. And in the schools, we start at third grade.
Okay.
So at the third grade level, he would be involved in the school mentoring program. The school mentoring program is meeting with a group of students. There's a male group and female group, and meeting with them twice a month. So it would be every other week that they meet. The male group will focus on first gentlemanship and what it means to be an upstanding young man. All the young men are expected, the expectation is that they wear shirt and ties on the days that we meet.
Okay.
And learn why do that in the process. It's not just a matter of doing it, because in today's world, we live in a do as I do world rather than a do as I say world. And there are many who try and tell someone what to do and they're not doing it. Right. So they lose their credibility immediately if they're not doing what they are asking someone else to do. So we as the mentors try to lead by example. And it's sort of like, like the Apostle Paul said that, if you have doubt about which way to go, follow what I do. I'm not perfect, but I'm going to be trying my best to do what should be done right. That's our guideline for working with our young people and our kids, is to just follow it and you'll be pretty close. Yeah. It won't be perfect, but you'll be pretty close to being on track. So that starts at the third grade level. So some will say, well, what about before that? Well, before the third grade level, we work closely with parent and child. Okay. And that's usually in a one-on-one situation. Those are more the extreme cases where that needs to be done. But we do have those cases where that's being done. And when we do that, again, that's more about in the parenting area and being a surrogate parent to that child along with the parent.
Gotcha.
Okay. So the school mentoring program, as I said, goes third grade up through high school. Okay. So your son could get on that track. Okay. Now, I throw another thing in there, which is not with the 100, but parallel, and that is the Boy Scouts. So there are Boy Scout programs that start very early on, and they are parallel tracks with the 100.
Gotcha.
So we in fact have a partnership.
Oh, nice.
In working, and it's particularly in our school mentoring program. In some of the schools, there's a Boy Scout program that's parallel with the school mentoring program from the 100.
Awesome. I just interviewed Tom Cardiff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I just interviewed him recently, so okay. That's good to know. Okay, all right. So I guess let's take a step back. How did you end up in Savannah? Because you said you're from South Carolina, lived in New York for a little bit. I don't know if we said that off there or on there, but how did you end up in Savannah?
I wound up in Savannah. I guess the foundation was set when I was doing some research, and the research led me to looking at crime rate, looking at school dropout rate, looking at teen pregnancy. And Savannah is not alone, but Savannah was in the mix in those categories of having high statistics. So that was one of the things that first drew my eye here. Did not set out to come to Savannah as a result of that alone, but was just one day I was on my way to Orlando. My wife and I were on our way to Orlando. I was teaching a course in Orlando and had some time before I needed to be there. I had never been to Savannah at that point, so I thought, well, it's right on I-95. Let's spend a few days in Savannah. So we came into Savannah, And as we were walking the beautiful streets of Savannah, we happened to walk by 208 Bull Street. Well, 208 Bull Street is the school board office. Being an educator, my curiosity was there as to what this school board office was like. So we went in. And as we were walking the halls of the school board office, looking at the walls and the pictures that are posted there, we were approached by a gentleman who said, "Can I help you?" And he was one of the supervisors for the school district.
Okay.
We sat down and we had a conversation. And during the course of that conversation, he brought in the director of human resources. And between the two of them, they looked at each other and offered me a job.
So you got trapped.
So, well, it was still a choice. But,
right, of course. I was just, yeah.
I don't answer things right away. I used to think about them. So I told him I would think about it. So my wife and I began to pray about it, asking for this divine intervention to give us insight on which direction we should go.
Right.
Well, two things happened that said this is what we should do. One was when we put our house on the market in Virginia, we put a for sale sign by owner in the yard one night. The next morning at 10 o'clock, the house was sold.
Wow.
We said, okay, we're getting a hint, but I need more information.
Okay.
So we came to Savannah to look for a place to live. We did not find anything initially, but then as it just would happen, the Realtor magazine for the week was on the seat of the Realtor's car. So my wife looked at it, and on the cover was this house. My wife looked at the house and said, where is this house? And we were told it was in Richmond Hill. We had no knowledge of where Richmond Hill was. So we asked, and it said we could go there and look at it. So we went down to Richmond Hill. My wife walked in the front door. I walked around the back and came in through the back side of the family room. And we both looked at each other and said, we got it. This is it.
Yeah.
The house that we bought was the exact floor plan that we had drawn 10 years earlier as our retirement home.
Wow.
So we said, okay, we understand. That's how we got to Richmond Hill.
Okay. Yeah, Savannah does have I love Savannah, the area. We stay in Richmond Hill too, but I do love Savannah because it does have it has an appeal that will like just suck you in because it's beautiful. There's history here. There's good and bad history here, but mostly now it's just good people around, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're great people in Savannah. They are great things for people to see in Savannah. Again, there is more need for an emphasis on working with our youth and putting in the time.
Right.
It's a time matter, not a dollars matter.
True. So, but Orlando was also on the list, so they have a high.
No, I was not going to Orlando to find a place to live. I was only teaching there.
That's right.
During the summers, for 15 years during the summers, I taught a course to high school principals on how to help kids be successful academically. And Orlando was one of those places that I was teaching.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, so that's pretty entrepreneurial as well. So have you ever started a business before?
No, I have not.
No. Okay. Never wanted to? Never thought about it?
No, I haven't, because when I think about business, I think more about the financial piece, and I'm not a financial piece person. I don't have a focus on making money.
Okay.
I have a focus on helping people. So if I did my own business, I would probably go bankrupt in the first year because if someone came in for help and needed it, I wouldn't charge them if they didn't have the money. And my expectation would be that they would be honest enough to say, I have the money or I don't.
Right. And
unfortunately, life may not be working that way at all times.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. So I appreciate that you're in the position you're in now because that wouldn't do too well in business, but it is an amazing trait to have in the organization you're doing with the youth. So thank you. Okay. And anything before we go to break? Anything did we leave out?
Well, I'm going to make a plug that I'll always make, and that is I urge upstanding men in this community to come forward and spend 2 hours a month helping our youth. It is not a big engineering deal. All it takes is putting in the time and being who you are with our youth.
Awesome. Okay, so how can people find you? How can people get in touch with the 100 Black Men again?
Again, Google 100 Black Men of Savannah, and that will lead you to our website. And once you get on our website, the email address will be there to email me directly or to email the organization through info, and that email will come to me, and we will respond in 24 hours.
Okay. All right, well, let's get these ads out of the way real quick. We'll come back with the lightning round. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned through the ads. They'll be really short. So, hold on.
You were listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
All right, Savannah, and we're back with Mr. Zke Zimmerman. What is executive director, president?
My position?
Yes, sir.
I'm currently the president, and we have a president-elect that takes office on the 1st of January, and that's Mr. Harold Oglesby.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll look forward to meeting him as well sooner or later. All right, so once again, we're here with the current president of 100 Black Men of Savannah, Mr. Zke Zimmerman, and we're going to put him through the lightning round. Are you ready?
We shall see.
What did you want to be as a kid, and how does that relate to your current business?
What I wanted to be as a kid was a high school math teacher. I saw that as sort of the foundation for everyone's life. You got to have math in whatever you do. There's not a profession out there that math is not a part of it. So I thought that would be a valuable place to help people and be in position to help people.
Mm-hmm. How have you approached failure in life?
Failure is a learning process. Without failure, the amount learned is much less than with failure. Unless failure is life or death, then it's a positive thing. If it's life or death, of course, you're in at that point. But other than that, failure can be taken as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to see things differently, and an opportunity to really get yourself in the resilience mode. Resilience is a necessity of life. And if we don't develop it, then we hit a wall real quick.
So side note, so my this will be a great question for you. Maybe you can help me with this. So my son, he likes trying new things, but he doesn't like to try things if he's not good at it. So like how do you teach that resiliency to the younger kids you're working with?
Is reinforcement, primarily through reinforcement.
Okay.
Because the reinforcement says that I'm okay. I'm okay to try things because a child wants to do things well to please those that they love. They love their parents, so they want to please their parents. If the parent indicates that it's pleasing to me that you are willing to try something and have the ingenuity to try it and reinforce the ingenuity part, reinforce the value of trying, of never giving up, and do that over and over and over again, then the child will come out that way. It's not an overnight thing, however.
Okay.
But you have to know that that's the mode that I have to be in at all times.
Good point. I got it. Reinforcement.
Correct.
Got it. Who influenced you early in life, and who's your mentor now?
There are two people who had a very strong influence on me early in life. I mentioned before my father, who was just, to me, he had my interests at heart. Whatever he told me, I often tell people that if my father said jump off the Empire State Building, my only question would have been when. It wouldn't have been why, it would have been when. Because I believed that he had my interests at heart so strongly, and the overall interests of everyone else, that if he told me to do that, he had a good reason for it. The other person was a gentleman who was early on in my life who pushed me very hard, and that was a gentleman who was the head deacon of our church. And he just constantly pushed, not only me, but all the young people in our church. He pushed them to achieve. He appointed me as the superintendent of the Sunday school to teach adults at the age of 12. So, and didn't back off on my preparing and getting it done.
Right.
But being very supportive in that process. And when I failed, he was there to pick me up, dust me off, and put me back in the fight again. So those two people gave me the work ethic, gave me the stick-to-itness that says, when you fail, it's not to give up time. It's just a matter of figuring out how you get there now from where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's your mentor now?
My mentor now, my wife is one.
Okay.
She plays a very strong role in keeping me on track.
Yeah, that's usually how it works.
Yes. And then I have two people who have mentored me professionally and spiritually.
Okay.
One is in Virginia, the other is in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
So we don't hesitate to get on the phone at any time to make a consult, to know that, again, they are people who will give me their best information for me to make a decision.
So it's not, once again, it's not a question, but you just fired stuff off of my head. But, like, can you just talk about, so some of the most successful entrepreneurs that I've interviewed so far all have a focus on mentorship. So can you talk about the value of mentorship really quick, just in general?
Well, it's really invaluable. I say that everyone needs a mentor, at least one. And maybe the older you get, the more mentoring you need.
Right.
Everyone needs someone out there, or someone's out there, who will try and put themselves in your shoes and then give you a broader perspective than where you are. You know, when you're in the mix, you have a tendency to get down in, and you can't see the forest for the trees. So you need someone who is not in the forest, but standing on the outside and can get the full perspective, yet have your interests at heart, and you know it's that way, to give you information that you can make a decision. Mentors do not make decisions for the individual who's being mentored. Mentors provide the pros and cons of outcome and possible outcomes of courses of action that you can consider. So as a father, my guideline to my biological son is that at the age of 12, I shift gears from telling you what to do to telling you what the possibilities are for you to make a decision, and focus a lot on the consequences at that age, so that it's well embedded in him that if I do this, then here's the consequence of doing it, positive or negative consequence.
Why age 12?
That sort of, to me, was the age of accountability.
Okay.
And it's not a fixed in stone age, but right around the 12-year-old point, somewhere in there. For some kids, it may be 14. For some, it may be 11. But right around the 12-year-old point of becoming the age of accountability and making decisions.
I like that. I think I'll be using that. So we talked about failure quite a bit. Tell me a story about a failure that you've been through.
A failure that I've been through. It's funny you should ask that question, because I look at as failures as not as failures, but a stepping stone.
Okay. Okay.
So there have been times in my military career, I guess you might say that there were challenges, and primarily my challenges were with people. people who did not have integrity. That is a big issue with me. And to work for someone who does not have integrity is trying.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the biggest challenge that I had, and how to do that and not lose sight of that within me. You know? So, but again, it strengthens a person as a result of that.
Right.
I became so much stronger as a result of that. So it's not a failure.
Right.
It was a challenge, yes, but not a failure. Failure is when there's absolutely no way out of it. And as long as I have faith, there's always a way out of it.
Always a way out.
I may not know it. I may not be able to accomplish it, but it is able to be done.
Okay. So what advice do you give to an entrepreneur or a person in the military who's going up against a superior or a boss or a manager or a client who doesn't have integrity, but they have integrity and they want to keep their integrity? So what advice do you have for them?
Okay. First and foremost, pray a lot. Because divine intervention is real. So it may not be something that I can do, and things have worked that way in my life. As I mentioned, the time of working for someone a boss of mine, who, in my estimation, completely lacked integrity. Well, you think of what I could do in those terms. I could sabotage, but that counters the person that I want to be.
Right.
So I had to rely on divine intervention. And sure enough, it took a few months, but sure enough, he got orders. That's divine intervention to me.
Right.
It wasn't anything that I could do. But knowing that with faith in the equation, then there's no challenge so great that it can't be overcome.
That's true.
And once a person knows that there's no challenge so great that it can't be overcome, then you never fail.
That's true. And even if you would have sabotaged, it'll come back to
yes,
you.
Yes.
Right?
So
what you reap, you sow.
Right. That is not the way to go.
So what did you teach your children about? I would say entrepreneurship, but what did you teach your children about mentorship and about giving back?
I also teach them about entrepreneurship.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what did you teach your children about entrepreneurship?
Okay. When being an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, how
many kids do you have?
We have 26 children.
Okay, all right.
We have. My wife says always let people know I birthed one, and we adopted 25.
Awesome. Okay.
So for each one is that in whatever business you're in, whether it's a product business or a service business, let your work speak for itself. Okay. That is, always do the best you can do, and always give the customer, the best product that you can give, regardless of the price. Always do that. And we have a little saying, it only costs a little more to go first class. So always give a first class product. Okay. And if someone is, even if it's a gratis type thing that they are paying nothing and you're just giving the service, always still first class. The other thing is to recognize your limitations. Okay? That is getting to know yourself. And I don't mean just lukewarm knowing yourself, but really knowing yourself. To know that, okay, I need someone else to do that part.
Right.
Okay? Or I need someone else. I learned, I had a chance to really exercise that when I was in command of a battalion in the military. And I by recognizing my weaknesses or my shortcomings, then I set out to have an executive officer and an operations officer who complemented me. When I say complemented, that is some of their strengths were some of my weaknesses. So that when we put it all together, we have the full picture. And we were able to work then as a team and knowing the strengths of each other. Carrying that over into education, the same thing in a school building. Principal, assistant principals, being able to complement each other, that is what one person's weakness is another person's strength, so that among the team, they have strengths in practically all areas.
And that's something I just implemented in my business, where I just launched a business, and I found a VP who's going to help me with sales, because I know I'm not the best at sales, and you just can't do everything.
Absolutely.
You can't sell, and you can't create content for your business, and you can't promote your business, and you can't network. You can't do all that successfully.
And that's a part of what I talk about when I say getting to know yourself. Know which one of those which ones of those are your strengths and which ones are your weaknesses.
Right. Very true. And it's better to have a little bit of a lot than a lot of bit of nothing. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. A few more and we'll get out of here. What's something that you consume religiously? It could be a blog, a TV show, a podcast, food. What's something you do every day?
Something I do every day is make sure that I try and help somebody.
Okay.
In my dealings with people is that if I'm not able to help somebody with something, is not to leave it at that point, but to follow through. And if I can't help them, to find help for them. I don't have all the answers by any stretch of the imagination. So, but my effort can be toward finding someone else who can assist them in their area of need. And then following through with that to make sure that the loop is closed before the end of the day. That's key to me for every day.
Yeah, that's okay. I want to say something, so I'm gonna say it. So that's something I've been struggling with myself. Is I feel like I'm not giving enough. I want to give more. I feel like I'm not giving enough. Like I'm blessed myself. Healthy kids, happy wife, happy life, all that good stuff. But I feel like I'm not giving back enough. So when I was in Chicago, one time I walked by a homeless family. It was a mother, and it was cold out. It was in the winter. I walked by a mother, and she had two kids, and they were doing their homework in like a little alleyway in the city. You know what I'm saying? Just like surrounded by skyscrapers and just wealth everywhere. And like they're right here. There's nothing I could do. That just sticks with me. And now I don't want to pass a homeless person without giving them anything I have, if I have anything. But anyway, okay. So yes, thank you. Yeah, I agree. What's something most people don't know about you?
Probably what in today's world, what many people do not know about me is that at the age of 17, from 17 to 20, that I was one of the youth leaders of the civil rights movement in my hometown.
Oh, okay.
That has helped to mold the way that I see the world. And so when I give someone an opinion about something or a course that I would take, I have to let them know that it's probably a little different than what's average because it had a profound impact on me. And there were a few incidents during that time that really sort of changed my life and changed my view of the world. One of those was being arrested the number of times that I was. I was arrested 19 times by the chief of police in my hometown. Now, know that during that era, we had no black police officers. It was an all-white police force. And, of course, I was thinking that the police chief hated me tremendously to arrest me that way. However, after I graduated from college and had gone on active duty with the military, the chief of police had me over to his house for dinner. Very strange outcome.
Yeah.
For someone who hates you. But he told me two things that were very profound and changed my view of people completely. One, he told me that he arrested me to ensure my safety because he was not sure that he could do that if his other police officers arrested me. And we'd been beaten with clubs and had water sprayed on us with high-powered fire hoses before.
Yeah.
So I knew what he was talking about when he said that protect you.
Right.
That was one thing he said. The second thing he said was that if his son grew up to be half the man that he saw in me, then he would be satisfied and very happy with his son. I never thought that I would hear that from him.
Right.
So that was one thing.
Yeah.
The second was on an experience of a what we call a swim-in.
Okay.
A group went to the white swim area, and there were police officers and highway patrolmen completely lining the beachfront so that no one could go in the water. Well, while we were standing there on a hot day in July in South Carolina, I say a little girl, she was probably about 14 or so years of age, came up to me and spit in my face.
Oh, man.
That was sort of the ultimate on self-control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I put my hands behind my back and held my hands tightly so that I did not do anything that I would regret later. And I stood in that position with the spit drying on my face for 5 hours.
Wow.
Till 7 o'clock that evening when the beach area closed.
Wow.
3 days later, I was arrested for another sit-in, and the police officer that was putting me under arrest made a comment to me that really drove it home as to what I'd done. He was there that day, and he reminded me, he said, "You remember that day down at the beach area?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Well, we all knew that you were going to slap that little girl, and when you did, you would be under the jailhouse for the rest of your life."
Oh, man. Wow.
So I learned the value of self-control. And that has molded how I approach things.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. So what do you think? What do you think that? Two things. What do you think that police chief saw in you?
Well, one, as a leader, whenever we had a demonstration, we wore a shirt and tie. We looked very professional in all that we did. And that gained a lot of respect. Second, there was no vulgar language. There was no talking back. When we were put under arrest, there was no comments made at all. We just did the routine of putting your hands on the car and spread them. And so he never got any pushback from any of us in what we were doing.
Gotcha.
And that gained the respect.
Gotcha. So, and feel free to pass on this next question. But so, how do you feel about the Black Lives Matter protests and the movement now?
Now, the first part I say is to know that it is a movement. It is not just an action impromptu. Is, again, from what my father taught me, is do the research on what Black Lives Matter is all about. Because you may be misled if you look at one little entity of the entire thing, but get the entire picture of what Black Lives Matter is all about. Who started it, why it was started, what its purpose is, what its philosophy of operation is, because you may encounter an anomaly to the entire operation itself, and you'll come away with a false picture of what it's all about. So my urgency is get to know what it's all about before making any decisions or opinions even about what Black Lives Matter is when you use the term Black Lives Matter.
Okay. All right. Well, I think two more questions, and then we'll get out of here real quick. I want to end on a good note. But two more questions. There's a concept called the 80-20 principle, Pareto's principle, and it says that 20% of your actions equal 80% of your results. So in your life, right? So like, what are the 20% of things you do that get you the most results?
The 20% of things that I do are focuses around setting out to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do the right thing in everything that you do. That takes a little effort,
mm-hmm.
because you can easily be sucked into doing something that will benefit you or benefit somebody else, but is not the right thing to do, and you know that.
Right.
So doing the right thing is the first of those. That gets to, in the long run, it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets to 80%. The other thing is believing in people.
Mm.
To absolutely believe that each person out there has a talent, has something to contribute, and that you need to help mature that or
mm-hmm.
help develop it in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no person out there that is absolutely unlovable.
If you had a superpower or ability, what would you choose and why?
If I had a superpower or ability, the one that I would choose would be the one to cause people to do the right thing by others.
Mm. Okay. And last question, last but not least, advice for entrepreneurial kids and their parents.
Focus on developing what it is that I do, what's my passion, marry my passion with my skills, and don't give up. Never, ever give up. Never let anyone tell you that you cannot do. You can do. It may take a little longer than you wish in some cases, but never give up.
Beautiful. Mr. Zke Zimmerman in the building, everybody. So thank you for joining us on WRUU this morning. And it was a great interview. So anything you want to leave the people with before we go?
Well, I come back to that little plug I gave before.
Yeah, plug it.
Is to the men of Savannah, particularly the men in the underrepresented categories of our youth who are in trouble, to step forward and give time. For those of you who are retired or self-employed, please contact me. We have programs that can fit, your skills, can fit your schedule. And what I guarantee, which is seldom given, but I guarantee you that if you put in the 2 hours a month with 15 young men, and ladies likewise, with 15 young ladies, that you will positively influence the lives of at least 9 of those 15. No greater love has a man than this, than to lay down his life for our youth in this case.
Okay, now I got to step it up. So thank you for joining us this morning. As always, be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you guys for listening. I love you. And go out there and do something impactful. Go out there and take action. We don't have a lot of time to live. We only get one life. So take some action, do something impactful, and go out there and help somebody that you love. All right, so thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
You You are listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.